everybody. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm Katie Darling from August Schools. We're so happy you're joining us today. This webinar will be recorded and we will email it to you afterwards. I will be managing the chat, so feel free to ask questions and chat with me throughout the webinar. But what we are really here for today is to spend time with Laura Estrada, our resident nurse. Laura, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hey, everyone. So happy to be here. As Katie said, my name is Laura Estrada, and I recently joined August as their resident nurse. So we just want to thank you all for coming and spending this time with us. I'm going to give you a little bit of background about me, set the stage for why the school I was at chose August, and then we're going to show you a little bit of an inside look at how the platform made my life a little easier as a nurse. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We ready, Katie?
Yeah, I'm going to launch a poll because we want to hear from you all. What is most important to you in your EMR? What challenges you may be facing? All right, I'm seeing immunization management as a big priority. Well, we are going to cover that first. Oh, also guardian communication. Fabulous. Okay, great. So those are the two big ones, Laura. I
Okay.
will let you take it from here.
All right, will do. So a little bit about me. I've been a nurse for 13 years. And one of the things that I love about our field is that we have so many different opportunities within nursing. And so for me, I started as a NICU nurse, which is where I thought I'd spend like my entire career. That was like my passion. But after having twins, I settled into a new position as a pediatric primary care nurse. And then my family ended up moving to Tennessee, and that kind of led me to pediatric hematology oncology in a clinic there. And so, as you can see, there was kind of a theme in my career. Pediatrics is my happy place. So when the opportunity arose for me to have the same schedule as my children and work with kids, I jumped on it. It was just like the perfect fit for me. So my friends and coworkers, though, thought I was crazy. And it wasn't because I was becoming a school nurse. I know we all are a little bit of crazy for doing that, but it was because I decided to become a school nurse in June of 2020. So the virtual school year had just ended. And we were looking at, in the state of Tennessee, returning to school in August, which was a big deal. So that was, imagine this situation, a nurse new to school nursing, joining the COVID pandemic. And let me not forget, our school switched from one information system to another one. And then with that, it was just the SIS that we had. It was great for academics, but it was leaving me wanting so much more in the medical department, and it was making key components that made my life harder. So after spending my first 2 years in my nursing career as a school nurse, I was making handwritten MARs. I was adding each and every allergy or condition that our students had to the back end of our student information system. I was having to go through individual immunization files and document all of our daily encounters. And then let's not forget, COVID contact tracing was also a thing back then. So I was just completely exhausted. And I don't know about you all, but our school's clinic visits went up by 40% post-COVID. So that was like a really big deal of having to deal with all those kids coming in. So with all that, I finally sat down with my administration and talked to them about how the medical team needed additional technology to keep up with our daily duties, not only to make my life easier, but to make it easier to communicate with parents and work together as a team for the kids while they were at school. So we looked at EMR systems compatible with our student information system, and we met with our top three. And what drove us and what drove my administration and myself to choose August was that it was a medically focused platform. It was user friendly. We were able to had built-in communicate with families, and the robo nurse for immunizations was amazing. It was such like a time saver. So many other platforms try to do it all within the system, student information system, but August's primary focus is making the school day easier for the nurse. And I experienced that myself. And so I'm so excited to share that with you and show you comparisons of how I saved so much time throughout this presentation. All right. Katie, do we get any more answers to those polls?
Oh, no, I closed the poll.
Okay, perfect. All right, well then we're gonna get to it, and I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and kind of show you a little bit about the platform. All right, Katie, can you see my screen in August? All right.
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay. All right, so we're going to get started in here. So this is just a general overview of what August looks like when you log into it from your school. This is your home base per se for the nurse to come back to. But as you all said, immunizations was huge. And here we are, August 1st. Summer is over for all of us nurses because school is starting. And one of the big things that you all are tasked to do is to make sure all of your students are compliant. So for me, we did not have any way to keep our immunization records besides the kids' permanent file. So when I first came to my school, I was having to go through each and every immunization record and look to see who was compliant and who wasn't, because there was no true list of that information. And I'm not going to lie, it took me an entire school year to go through an entire 1,000 students because of how many clinic visits and everything like that. It just took a long time to record all that information. Thankfully, I had it for the kids that we needed right at the beginning of the school year, but just to make sure everybody was compliant and nobody was missed, it took so much time to do that. So I'm going to show you in the platform how that time is going to be saved, because it is so nice to have all that information right at your fingertips. So I'm going to head over to this immunizations tab. And over here, you can see this is just a staging environment. So you can see that we have compliance, non-compliance. Right here is where I lived a lot in looking at compliance for the kids at my school. What I loved about this is that this is everybody's immunization record. So I have 236 kids in my school right now, and this is going to show me everyone at once. I'm not having to go into Frankie's profile just to see if he's compliant or not. I can do that from a click of a button right here. So this overall status allows us to filter by compliant, expiring soon, non-compliant, if they don't have any record within your system. And then you have the waiver option as well for those who might have medical waivers or religious exemptions, depending on your state's guidelines. So you can filter out by all of those things. It quickly brings up all of your kids and gives you a total down here. You can also filter by a specific grade level and bring your number down even further. So that really gives you a nice breakout of your entire school at the click of a button. I'm going to clear these filters and show you one of my favorite things to use. So the robot will assign compliance or non-compliance. What I love to use was a feature that they added called expiring soon. This was a feature that I used for all of my maybe pre-K or sixth graders at the end of the school year in May. This past year, I went through all my sixth graders and looked to see who all still needed a Tdap shot for seventh grade. And I marked them as expiring soon. So then I could pull a report if I did expiring soon and labeled 6th grade. I could see that I only had 5 parents that I needed to communicate with, which was so helpful, and enabled me to send communication out to those parents pretty quickly. So from here, I'm going to jump over to our amazing import system, the Robo Nurse. We all know that hand entering immunizations into a field, it can be painstaking, especially looking from one document back to the computer or whatnot. And this immunization importer does it all for you. So I'm going to switch over to that. I'm going to click Import Immunization Records. And just for the sake of time, I have already preloaded this immunization form into the system. Now, this is not a pretty immunization form. As you can see, there's rips in it. There is a tear here through an actual date in the immunization form. You've got stains on it. Parents deliver these forms in all different ways. And so sometimes it's up to us to decipher them, and it can be really hard. But what I love is that the Robo Nurse needs just a clear picture with the dates and the immunizations and the student's name just to be able to pull it into the system, which I'm going to show you how that works here in just a second. So I'm going to switch my screen back over to the immunization record. As you can see, I've already uploaded it here. This is where you would upload the document from your desktop. But I have uploaded this immunization, and it does not have a name associated to it. So it's just saved as immunization 1000. And you can see it's told me that it's finished importing it, and it needs my inspection, which means it needs my eye to make sure everything is right. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this, and it's going to take me to another screen. And you can see in here, it's already pulled IVB's immunization record. So the AI has already assigned this immunization to a student's name based off of what it's read and open that profile. So I'm going to go ahead and click this, and you see it gives us 3 tabs to open. So it's going to show you the document that it scanned, and I'm going to make this bigger so everybody can see that this is the document that I just showed you that it scanned. And then also down here, you can open up the detected record. So there is a pattern here that I want to show you all that makes it so easy to kind of go back and forth between looking at your dates and making sure they're correct. And that's the color coordination. These colors are not just random up here. These colors are associated with your name of your vaccine down here and the dates. So it makes the eye be able to quickly go between the dates to see that information. So one thing you're going to see also is that it's made this document non-compliant. And that's because we have a date right here that it couldn't read. And that's because there's a tear right in the middle of this screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look and see. I can see that it's 9-0. That might be a 1-2020. As nurses, we know that DTaP and polio are typically given together on that 4th birthday or after. So I can see that polio was given on 9/1 of 2020. And this clearly looks like a 1. So we can go ahead and scroll down and add that date to this field. And what's also a nice little perk here is that it automatically gives you the options of all of the dates that were imported from the immunization record. So I've got that date 9/1/20 right here. I'm going to choose it. It's going to take just a second. And then look what happened. We went from non-compliant to compliant. Up here, we've also gone to compliant. So this record, she is now set to go. Ivy Beard's information is in here, and I'm going to go up here and I'm going to approve this document. And it's going to send all of that information into her chart, into her profile. So I'm going to go back to my immunizations. You can see it was approved for Ivy Beard. I'm going to go back to my students, And then I'm just going to filter. She was in first grade. Let's see. Oh, no, not first grade. I'm going to go over here and go to the second page because I know her name, Ivy Beard, and I'm going to see her in here, and all of her doses are over here in the system now, and she is now compliant in the system. So that's how our immunization our nurse robo works, and I think it saves so much time for all of these documents that you have to import, and you can do more imports at a time. I was just showing you the one at a time today. So if you have any questions on that, please put them in the chat for Katie, and we can get to them at the end. All right, so from here, we've spent our day in immunizations. School is started. What do we spend besides importing immunizations at the beginning of the year? The biggest thing that the nurses do is clinic visits. And so I'm going to show you how that made my life easier in this tab over here called Encounters. But I'm going to go back to my board just to kind of start here. So we all spend the day in the clinic, kids coming in and out. We sometimes have kids coming in, multiple kids at a time. I know for me, especially if there was something not that great on the menu for lunch, I would have like 2 or 3 kids coming in at the same time at lunch, or after lunch, because maybe they didn't eat anything, and they were hoping to get some crackers for a stomach ache because they didn't really eat anything for lunch. So I'm going to show you how to document those visits. I think a really great feature in here, this is back again to your home board, is that you can see who's already come in for the day. These are just visits that I had put in. It kind of keeps track of your day and how many students you've had. So for the Encounters tab, for the Encounters, let's say a kid named Joseph comes in with a skin knee. So I'm going to go ahead and go up here to this global search button and type in his name. And even if I mistype it, it's going to give me options. So you can see it's going to give me all of these options, and it gives you a second line of identification. So if you need to search by date of birth, or if you have 2 kids with the same name, and you know one's in kindergarten, one's in second grade, you can choose that information right here and make sure you're charting on the right student. So I'm going to go ahead and click this name. So from here, we always want to know about the kid before we start doing anything for them, providing any treatment, because that's best practice. We want to make sure they don't have any allergies, they don't have any conditions that we need to be aware of, and all of that information is right here in your student card. And you can make this bigger, it pops out from your screen, and you can also do stuff behind it and keep this up so you can read the information on here. So this little boy has an egg allergy and ADD. We also can see parent contact information down here. And this is really where the nurse puts in all of their information for their student. So from there, I am going to open an encounter on Joseph, and I'm going to go right here to a clinic visit, and I'm going to say that he came in for a skin knee. So I can keep this open, I can shrink it, or I can get rid of it and quickly come back to it if I need to. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of it, and I'll show you how I come back to it. So as you can see, it's opened the visit with his name, my name, because I'm the one seeing it, and it's timestamped the visit for us. So we don't have to put that information in. Right here under Chief Complaint, this is where you can put your quick information. August has preloaded all of this information in here for you, and it's just a type to search. So you have all these broader subjects and then different ones that more you can get more in detail going further in. So I'm going to type that he has an abrasion on his leg and that he maybe came in from the playground, so that we know this injury was associated with the playground. For the sake of time, I'm not going to type risen, but I'm just going to put in what I would typically put in for an encounter. So he came in from the playground after falling on the concrete and what I did for him. So I'm going to put that in there. He came in, abrasion on the left knee, cleaned with soap and water, and placed a Band-Aid. Now for the treatment, those are also a quick search with typing. You have all of these options of what you can do for them. So I'm going to say that I placed a Band-Aid and I cleaned with soap and water. So as you can see, as you type, different things come up in the system. So those will save there. Further edits can be made. So he is done there. So that note is finished and it's complete, and we're back in encounters. If we go back to history, we can see that he came in today. We'll be able to see his visit once it comes over. That is a locked visit that he came over for a playground injury. So we are going to, from there, let's say all of these kids came in at once. Like I said, it's lunchtime and everybody came in at the same time. One of the features that I really love is that you can open multiple students at once. So let's say 3 students come into your clinic, and you just want to at least timestamp the time that they came in so that you can come back and chart on them later. So I'm going to type that Ethan came in. I'm going to open his profile. I'm going to see, okay, Ethan has some migraines. He's coming in for a headache. I'm going to say that Rory came in. Rory doesn't have much going on with him, so that one's not, he's important, but not maybe as important as the start. And then Willow also came in at the same time. She's complaining of a stomach ache. So I clicked to open Willow, and as you see, I was able to open 3 students at once, just to kind of get a quick look at what's going on with all of them. So I'm going to start by opening an encounter, a quick template. August picked up on the fact that nurses see a whole bunch of the same thing: headaches, stomach aches, sore throats, and injuries. So I'm going to go ahead and use this quick template for Willow to open a stomach ache visit. And then I'm also going to open up for Rory. He came in for a sore throat. I'm going to go ahead and open up that visit. And then Ethan came in for a headache. As we can see, he has migraines, so that's something we probably want to deal with first. So I see that he came in for a headache. As you can see, all of these visits I was able to open, and I'm going to go back to my encounters page, and I'm going to see, I'm clicking to today so it shortens it. You can see that I was able to timestamp Ethan, Rory, and Willow all walking in at the same time. And now I would have to go back and chart on those, but they're open notes for me to be able to view and go back and chart on. So I'm going to click into Ethan because Ethan has a headache. He's coming in with a migraine. We want to see him first, and we want to do what we can for him. So you can see that this pre-populated information in here, this is all changeable. So I can delete, I can edit, I can add. Just because it pre-populates doesn't mean it's fixed within the system. So I'm going to go ahead. I know Ethan has come in for his migraine. And if I look at his profile closer, I have a note in here that he has PRN Tylenol for his headaches. So I'm going to go ahead and administer medication to Ethan for his headache to see if we can give him some relief. So I'm going to take out this vital signs and observation, and I'm going to add that I'm giving him a medication. In the medication, you can see once I click out, it's going to say add a medication administration for Ethan Hammond. So I'm going to click his name. If your school had OTC permissions, some states allow this, some don't, you would be able to set this as a nurse for an OTC permission, but this is an ordered med by his doctor that he's allowed to have for his migraines. So this is something that we've added into his profile of that he may have Tylenol 500 milligrams for his headaches if he has one. So I'm going to go ahead and select this. And as you can see, it's populated the recommended dose that I had already put into the system, he's supposed to only get one 500 milligram Tylenol. I'm going to administer the time as now, and it's going to populate the time of 1:27, and the quantity I'm going to put as 1. So he had 1 Tylenol, and I'm going to say taken for headache. And save. So once I've saved that, it is in the system. So this is automatically going to go over to my MAR for the day of medications that I have administered. And it's going to put all of that information in there for me. And I was able to do that all from one screen. I wasn't having to go between screens or open things up. I could do that all from his profile, which is a huge time saver. Because for me, especially PRNs, I'd have to go and look up in my med book what meds they had and everything like that. And in this, it's all at the touch of a button. So we can do that. So I'm going to go ahead and save this encounter. And then from here, we're going to hop over to meds because I want to show you all a little bit about medications and how they work. So I clicked over here on this left-hand side, you have your main tabs of information. And so it automatically opens up to my MAR for the day. So these are all generated through the student's profile of medications that we have programmed into their profile for set times that they need a medication. So all of your kids who are on scheduled meds for the day, you'd be able to build out your MAR and it would come over to in here, and you can see what medication they have at what time it's supposed to be administered. So these green check boxes mean that it's been administered for the day. A red means that you've skipped the dose for some reason. And I don't know about you all, but giving ADHD meds and Schedule II meds, you have to do counts and you have to make sure your counts are accurate, especially when parents are dropping off medication. They can only get 30-day supply at a time. When we were doing our handwritten MARs, my partner and I would have to go through and check marks, count the check marks, count the pills, make sure it all lined up. And it just was a lot of time. Every Friday, it was like a painstaking task to do. And so from there, transitioning to this and having the system count my meds for me was just such a time saver and enabled me to communicate with parents better. I know I struggled with making sure that at a certain point, I was communicating with parents to say, hey, we only have a week left of medication for Johnny, because this system showed me every single time I gave the med how many doses I had left, which was such a relief to be able to know, okay, I'm down to 10, I'm going to notify the parent. So let's say Poppy walked in, it's 1:30, Poppy walked in while Ethan was here for her Focalin. So I'm going to show you how we administer that. I'm going to click this green checkbox right here. And it's going to already populate the time for me of when she was supposed to have it. Now that time can be changed if Poppy walks in early or late. Also, the date can be changed if you're needing to change that for whatever reason. But what I want to focus on here is this remaining inventory. So this is saying that I am giving Poppy 1 Focalin 5 milligram right now. And so after that one, I'm only going to have 26 left. So this is automatically counting. So if I were to change this to 2, it would tell me that I only have 25 left. So I'm going to change it back to her 1, not 21. I'm going to change it back to her 1 and go ahead and confirm that this is her med and go ahead and give it. And now it's going to show up as given. Another thing that I like is that in this feature, there's also this notes section. So if you have a diabetic or something like that, you can type in a note. And as you can see over here, this student, Adam Barker, he had Humalog. I went ahead and typed in a note that was per his order for his sliding scale and his lunch dosage to say why I gave the units that I gave of the 3.5. So it's a nice comprehensive look at your day. And you can also look back at past MARs and just filter this by student, which is a really nice way to kind of look at past history of a student's medication administration.
Hey, Laura, we are a
Yeah.
couple minutes past the half hour, but I
Okay.
think we could definitely still show analytics.
Okay, we'll show that real quick. It won't take too long. So I'm going to hop over to analytics. On my page, I'm going to hop over to the last school year. So this is a live view analytics of information. So for me, the reason I think analytics are so important for you as nurses is because it shows how much you're doing and how much you're working. School nursing is not just band-aids and boo-boos. There's so much more to that. And it upsets me when people think that's all that school nursing is, because there's just so much more to that, to school nursing, so much more that you're doing in your clinics every day that is just behind the scenes that people don't see. And so I think the analytics tab is great and can show your administration how much you're doing, what you're seeing, when you're seeing it, and why. And so this is a live view of my year last year. So as you can see over here, I saw there was 1,095 students in the school, and I saw half of them. Half of the students in the school I saw. Over here, this breaks out all of my clinic visits by that top chief complaint. And then if you go further, it breaks it out even further of maybe some information that you put in, which really shows what you're doing. But down here, this ebb and flow of data is the whole entire school year. This is from August to May. And it shows my clinic visits throughout each week. If I just were to scroll, let's go to this worst week right here, 10/22 to 10/28. So if I look back on that, I'm wondering why do we have so much illness that week? Well, that was 2 weeks post fall break. So a lot of illness after fall break. We could see that, and it just shows you your trends throughout the year of what you may be seeing. If you're seeing a lot of playground injuries or things like that, you can break out that information as well. The last thing I want to show you down here is it breaks it out by grade level. So you can see how many students from each grade you saw, but then you can also show by practitioner. So it's going to tell me how many clinic visits each nurse had in your school. So you can really kind of see that breakdown as well, and you can separate it out. So if you want to delete people, you can kind of delete certain people and only see others. And it just gives a very comprehensive view of what's going on and all the information that August is tracking for you without you telling it to track, which is really nice. And that's a wrap for everything that I wanted to show you today and how it made my life easier. And I encourage you all to ask questions or to reach out about more information. Toss it back to you, Katie.
Thanks. Okay, I have been answering questions in the chat. Thank you for reviewing some of our favorite features. And Laura, just thank you for being a school nurse and sharing your experience as one of our very first August Schools nurses. We're so happy to have you on our team. If anyone has more questions for Laura, you can drop them in the chat. You can also reach out to us. We will be sending an email to follow up after this webinar. So we will definitely be in touch. Thank you for spending time with us today. We've got a question. Okay, how do you enter scheduled medications into the MAR?
Laura, do you want to share your screen and maybe show us live?
Sure, I can do that. Give me just a second. Let me get my screen back up to share. And let me get back to that screen too. All right, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. Okay, so can we see the August environment? Katie?
Yes.
Again. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to pick a student, maybe this student that we worked on before. Let's say Joseph Alvarado. maybe he broke his leg in that playground injury and now needs a PRN Tylenol to have at school for pain. I'm going to come into his profile and I'm going to go to this medications tab down here. And I'm going to go ahead and add an medication administration. So you see it populates his name, the medication. I'm going to choose Tylenol. This system pulls all of its drugs from a database, so it's very comprehensive. It gives you lots of options. As you can see, I have plenty of options down here. Joseph's young, so I'm going to choose that he's getting Tylenol 160 per 50 mLs because that's what my order is for. He's getting liquid Tylenol. And then this provider would be pre-populated by you in the student card. I'm going to select the provider for my order. And then I'm going to say that he needs an as needed dose and that it should be administered by school. He's a tiny kid, so he's going to get 10 mLs. Sorry, I didn't check that. And then you could put if there's a time that he's supposed to be getting it, but you don't have to fill in these fields. They're not required. But I really like down here, you can add your order or your doctor's note down here for your medication administration to save to this, or put any notes in here. As I scroll back up, if this is just a timed, like let's say he's only allowed to have this for 2 weeks per the order, you can also end the date here, let's say 2 weeks from today. Once I create it, it is now saved in his profile that that's the Tylenol that he can have, which is, and then if I were to go into an encounter, like I did before for Ethan, you can see that Tylenol is already there and it was super quick and it's already there for me to choose from because those are his stocked meds that he is allowed to have. And it specifies that those are Joseph's medications. Hopefully that answers it for you.
Thank you. Okay. They love that you can save the doctor's orders. Yay. And can the robo nurse option work for the med orders as well? This nurse gives over 100 meds a day.
That's a lot. I'm not sure that it can work for importing that information quite yet. I think the key to putting in your medication orders is to make sure that they are going in the student's profile correctly and you are choosing the right med for that student each time that you're entering it in. But once you've entered it in, say at the beginning of the school year, it's in there for the entire length of the school year. You're not having to add medications in every day. It's more of a one-time thing. And also, if you use the enrollment process for August, you can have the parents input that information for you and upload their medication administration forms. And then all you're having to do is verify that information. So it's not you putting in the information yourself.
I also want to speak to one great question I loved getting, and that was the nurse said, this platform is amazing. I would love to have it, but how do I get buy-in from my administrator? And Laura, I'd love to know how you got buy-in from your administrators.
So for me, I pulled data. So in the old system that I was able to use, we still could run reports of how many like clinic visits and things like that we were having. And so I was showing them that data of, hey, look, COVID visits, since COVID, visits have increased 40%. We're also having to do this, this, and this. The time that it's taking me to do these MARs, kids are medically more complex these days. I don't know why, but they are. And we're seeing a lot more kids needing medication at school, a lot more kids with asthma and allergies. And it's just a lot of paperwork to keep up with. And you can tell them that you can spend your time doing other things and other initiatives if you're able to save time in these areas, which I think is a lot what they want to hear, is that you can maybe offer them more time in other things. We don't have that much time to give, but at least it's saving you time and opening up some time for you.
Thank you, Laura. Okay, I think that was our last question. So we can go ahead and close up the webinar. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you, Laura, for leading our first webinar together.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yes, we look forward to talking to everybody real soon.